Big Dame, keeping it live. You wanted to get into a very provocative area, which I am excited about. And the impetus for this, just backstory. People have been hearing in recent weeks about NFL's Deshaun Watson, the quarterback for the Houston Texans, and not to get in the weeds about that because that story has a lot of different layers to it. But one of the things I thought was interesting that you talked about was the hypocrisy that we see a lot of times when public figures, be they athletes or entertainers or politicians, are accused of inappropriate behavior, indiscretion, and how the accusation takes flight. Right. Once it gets out in the media, it's sensationalized and it's pushed, only for us to find later many of those who are pointing the finger have their own issues of some kind. So, which I really thought was pretty interesting. Talk to me about your your feelings around the hypocrisy of the way that we adjudicate and look for justice. Talk about these kinds of issues in the media.
Well, I think it's a double standard. I mean, to be frank, it's in today's day and time, I feel like if and let me be clear, I don't know what happened with Deshaun Watson or Bill Cosby or anybody else, right? But I do believe that if a accusation is levied, then I believe both parties have the right to state their case, and then the chips fall where they may. And that's where I stand on the Deshaun Watson thing. I think that the young ladies, they need to be heard. Their case needs to be heard, and they need to be taken into consideration. They need to be valued, and by all means, if he's guilty, he needs to deal with those consequences. But if not, then he needs to be vindicated. I feel like a lot of times in today's day and age, man, think about it. If these ladies were vilified, right, for, he ain't never done nothing wrong. It's Deshaun Watson. You ain't never heard about him so much as taking a sip of beer, whatever.
Right.
But
right.
And that's one of the things you hear. But the guy has immaculate character. I've never heard, now I don't know him personally, but I've never heard anything so much as a jaywalking ticket from this kid through college, the league, the whole 9 yards, right? That's not to say he's incapable of doing something wrong, but I'm just saying. But that is not really what's highlighted, right? What's highlighted is he did something wrong. Oh no, there's 14 cases now, and it keeps going. Oh, look how many there are now. But if you start to pick apart the cases and look at some of these women and say, hey, well, wait a minute. What about this? What about that? Well, back in such and such a year, she did this or she did that. Or why didn't they go to the police? Why is there no police record at all? If you start picking it apart, I think that's viewed as, that's looked down upon. That's frowned upon, right? These are women. They deserve, and I agree with that. But they're also people, and they also can lie, just like they can tell the truth. Just like a man can lie or tell the truth. You know what I mean? Right. So I just feel like it's a double standard. I feel like that's okay. That's not okay to do, but it's okay to just assume, and more or less that he probably did something and he needs to be suspended until they get this sorted out. And so all of a sudden now he's guilty until proven innocent. In essence, is what that is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas if you did that to the accuser, I don't think it would be viewed the same way, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I think it's really interesting because, the media has played a part. And listen, I mean, in some sense, we are a part of the media now, right? We deliver digital content, which is about these topics. But the mainstream media takes these stories and runs with it. And I think we have a society that is very quick to look for, the headline and look for something that's going to be eye-catching because there's so many different places where people can get information. We talk about clickbait and things like that. And you look at it and none of what was in the title comes up at all in the narrative. Um, and I think in the rush to get eyeballs so that you can justify what you're charging advertisers, people are sacrificing character. And, his character, even the character of the women, right? Because in some cases it could be that what a woman said or what a victim said, let's not even make it male and female, but what a victim says could be taken out of context. Or someone doesn't do the additional work to ask the questions. Well, okay, like for instance, with Mayor Cuomo in New York, or Governor Cuomo, right? One of the I saw the quote. One of the women who had a claim against him said, "He hugged me too long, I felt, and he made a statement that I thought was inappropriate." This is several years ago. Now, you and I talked off air. If in context, right, you're at a celebration where he wins governorship for the first time, he's happy, right? Everybody in the venue is on 12, and he hugs and embraces you the same way he hugged Bob, who was canvassing in Brooklyn, and he hugged Jim and then Susie, who were in upstate, and it's just a strong embrace. And in the moment, you're not prepared for it. And then afterwards, he makes some comment about, my God, I just love you. I mean, it's amazing. It's just some, effusive expression of emotion.
Right.
But you're someone who's not really touchy-feely. And in the moment, you're like, oh, I don't know if I wanted all that. Right. And now you hear all these other women are making claims, don't know the details. But now, well, hey, I think that's me. Me too.
Right.
Right. And it just picks up wings.
Right.
Those are the kinds of things. And I'm not, again, I feel like there are tons of instances where, because of the society we have been reared in, men have been empowered to flex in moments that they need to show restraint. Men have crossed the line. There are tons of examples of that. And I think all of that needs to change. We need to respect one another, male, female, genders, colors, all that. But I think in the rush, again, to judgment, we have all these other instances that we can't even explore because, well, there's been wrong done. And it's a psyche that I think we need to break. Because when you dig deeper, a lot of times you find, again, the people pointing fingers. I remember there was this senator who was from somewhere in the Midwest, and he had been really outspoken against same-sex marriage, and he was really outspoken about, domestic partnership and all this other stuff, right? Only months later be found in the bathroom of an airport trying to hook up with another young dude, right? That kind of stuff. It's like, getting up on a soapbox for the sake of the soapbox because somebody says, "Hey, man, this is what people are watching. You got to be seen on the right side of this." And well, wait a minute, do I? I don't know the facts on that enough to do that.
Well, it goes back to, like we talked about before. You got to be careful because everything is so business that we forget that there's real people out here. We had talked about one of our conversations not too long ago, and I was saying there are two places where you can't run it like a business, and that's hospitals and schools, right? You can't just look at the bottom line. You can't just look at the bottom line. You're dealing with human lives, kids and human lives. And I think, media could be considered another one. You know what I mean? It's not just the bottom line simply because, okay, yeah, you got the eyeballs, you got the advertisers, but now you defame somebody. Once you put something out, certain things out there on people, it's pretty hard to come back from that. Even if aside from, let's look at let's go back further. Let's look at Emmett Till. Look what happened to Emmett Till. Everybody took the story, ran with it. Bad repercussions. You know what I mean? Only to find out decades later, it was all a lie. Had that woman not come out and said it was a lie, people would still believe that a lot of people now. A lot of people don't believe that even if he did whistle at her or whatever the accusation was, I think a lot of people still don't believe that what happened to him should have happened to him. A lot of people at that time did, you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying today. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, aside from her finally coming out and saying, oh, no, he didn't whistle at me, I lied. As far as history is concerned, that would be the story. He whistled at a white woman and then he was killed, right?
Right.
That would be that's what history would tell. How history would tell the story, right or wrong. That would be the story, and it wasn't even true. So,
Right.
same thing as in today. You put something on someone, aside from if it's not true, aside from the people coming back and saying, "Hey, nah, I lied. I just wanted some money," or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
History's still going to tell the story this way. He was accused. This is what happened. He settled. You know, and every time somebody settles, it's like, oh, he's guilty. He's guilty. He's settled. He's
Right.
guilty. You know, not understanding the how that works. You know what I mean? How settling works.
You know, Big Damon, you now you're getting into my wheelhouse. I get real passionate about this thing because I say often, people need to look back a little bit. They need to be comfortable looking back to understand why certain arguments are made by certain people.
Right.
And you brought up Emmett Till. Well, Emmett Till is the result of what happened right after the passing of the 13th Amendment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When newspapers, again, it's the media involved, and this is why people need to understand we're not just throwing stuff at the wall hoping something sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Right after the passing of the 13th Amendment, the media, the newspapers started printing articles, comic strips of black men with exaggerated features, bulging eyes, looking crazy, chasing a white woman.
Yeah.
And some caption that would play up why white women needed to fear black men who had this uncontrollable urge to go grab and get after a white woman. Right? Now, fast forward. The reason why you have to ask additional questions when it comes to someone or a Deshaun Watson incident is the minute the story's out, the spirit, what's been sown into the culture and the mindset for years, decades, is, well, that's a black man who felt empowered, and that's in their nature. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you hear the narrative that, oh, he was somewhere and he started just showing himself and he wanted to demand this of me, and you don't know any facts about the women.
Right.
Right. But because you don't know the facts, but the attorney's white, you make some assumptions, right? Because historically you hear, well, these black men get money, they want a white woman. You know what I mean? Right. So it's already built into the narrative. They're playing off of what you'll tell yourself to fill in the blanks. Doesn't matter if they clear his name later.
Right. Well,
right.
Yeah. Yep. Now I was gonna say, look at the funny thing to me is funny that you say that, because the way the puppet master works, right? Get your head in a space where you act, right? Exactly. You're acting on thoughts, ideas, and suggestions, right? You're not acting off of fact. You're acting off thoughts, ideas, and suggestions. So let's go back to those stereotypical images, right?
Mm-hmm.
This wild, crazy black man that just has an urge to run after white women because that's what they do. Nobody ever stopped to consider the fact, not the thought, idea, or suggestion, but the fact that white men at that time couldn't control themselves from running after black women. That was a fact, and taking them, you know what I'm saying, and having their way with them. So that was actually happening factually, right? So, but we spin the narrative. There's this new thought, idea, or suggestion we put up, and now nobody even can look how strong it is. Like nobody even consider. Wait a minute. These black men are such animals. Let's look at what these other men were doing. You know, so it's not just black men. There maybe just there's bad people and good people. Maybe nobody even considered it. You know, common logic. Nobody. So just like in this situation right here, Oh, well, here's this big old strapping buck. You know, he's an athlete, you know, and you know, that
I
fella,
seen him play on Sunday.
yeah, his teeth good and white. And so and so, but nobody considers like stuff like, okay, not one police report. Okay. You know, maybe they
Not one.
maybe
Not one. 14,
maybe
but
all
not
of
one.
them, maybe all of them felt a certain way. I don't know. Right. The lawyer announced it on Instagram. Not a subpoena, not a legal document delivered to his doorstep. An Instagram post. We intend to really that. So these are certain facts that I look at that
Right.
say, let's just reserve judgment, right?
Right.
Let's just
Because it
reserve
doesn't
judgment.
pass muster, right? It doesn't pass the common sense radar
Right.
without showing up big. You know, flashing red light. Beep, beep.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like no,
Right.
this don't read right.
Right.
You know. And I'll tell you something else, and this is on the other side of the coin. Here's why that kind of stuff is hurtful. Because there are other examples of where the media is defending the opposite.
Yeah.
So I think I told you I was watching the whole Allen versus Farrow, or Farrow versus Allen, whichever way they do it on HBO.
Yeah.
And when it came out in the wash, right, you saw that what was enabling his public defense was the PR person behind him, who has a reputation for remembering and has a ton of influence. And the message they were spamming everywhere was about how unstable Mia Farrow was, how the little girl really didn't have any credibility. And, you know, this whole baseless argument that they have is a part of a syndrome. And the next thing you know, you actually have other white men, educated, and let's call that air quotes educated, who then create these whole theories about parents who are vengeful and make accusations about their spouse being an abuser in hopes of keeping their child. And because he makes the argument built off of this fictional idea of a PR machine trying to defend a dude who, by all intents and purposes from the evidence, it looks like he molested a 7-year-old child, not just married his stepdaughter, right? But molest a 7-year-old, right? She defends him. And because this air quote educated dude believes it, creates a whole theory around the psychosis that becomes defense. They say that now 80+% of cases where a parent accuses the other parent of being an abuser, the parent being accused not only gets off, but keeps the kids.
Sad stuff, man.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this whole thing about the hypocrisy, it's not something I don't think we should take lightly. I definitely think it's serious. And it's not just about, you know, don't go blaming the black man for everything, because there's some idiots out there. We know it.
Absolutely.
But you said it before, Big Dame, and I love it when you say it. Think for yourself, people. Read, think for yourself. And I love your tidbit. Follow the facts, not the stuff you got to speculate on and where you got to guess. Follow the facts. And if the facts tell you, this don't smell right, it's probably spoiled. It's probably spoiled.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Well, think about when you go through the airport, right? You walk through the machine, hands up, machine waves. You walk through, hold on, wait a minute. The fact is, it's not truth, but the fact is there was a beep. Let me get you to walk back in here again.
Right.
Okay. The fact is, it's still beep. So let me get the wand now. I'm going to wand you. I'm going to go over you with the wand. Okay, you don't have nothing. Go ahead. Right. But because there was something there, I had to check. And I had to check again. Right. And then we'll check. And then if no harm, no foul. But it doesn't mean that, oh, we got one. The SWAT team didn't run in at the first beep, throw me on the ground, cuff me, you know what I'm saying, anklets,
Right.
pepper spray my face. They didn't do all of that because there was nothing wrong. You just got to check, you know?
Right.
And so that's what I think should happen. I mean, if it's a situation, if the red flag is waved, man, let's take a look. Let's see what's going on. But let's not call in the SWAT team just yet, you know.